Welcome to Poetry on Form. My name is Amanda Bonnick, and today we're going to be looking at the ekphrastic poem. That's an interesting word. It's from the Greek, and it means one art form commenting on another. So we're looking at poetry commenting on different art forms. I'll just spell it because it's quite a complicated word. That's ekphrastic, ekphrastic, and it's possibly a dramatic monologue or a part of a longer piece of a poem, because often when you're responding to a piece of poetry, you're looking at a human drama going on in the artwork you're looking at. So it can be in that form. It's often very vivid because you're discussing and responding to a visual form, say a sculpture or a painting, and it's inevitably going to be subjective because it's the individual poet's response to that artwork. It's a way for one artwork to illuminate and comment upon another. And it can be any poetic form or structure. So you can have it in a sonnet form or free verse or any form you wish. So that gives you a bit of freedom in your response. There are quite a few very famous ekphrastic poems. One of the most famous is Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats, and that's a response to a piece of ancient Greek pottery where he could see all the forms in that distinctive colouring around the ancient pottery, and he commented on that. Another famous one is My Last Duchess by Robert Browning, and that was inspired by a portrait of Lucrezia de' Medici by Bronzino, and it's from the point of view of her husband, in fact her widower, Alfonso il Deste, and it's quite a sinister poem. In fact, Browning creates a whole story around that portrait, so that's fascinating. And one that I'm just about to read is called the Musée des Beaux-Arts by W.H. Auden, and that's inspired by a painting by Peter Bruegel the Elder, which is a painting of the fall of Icarus. In fact, it's called Landscape with the Fall of Icarus because the landscape is also important, as you'll see in the poem. And Icarus was a young boy in Greek mythology who wore the wings that his father Daedalus had made for him. They were made of wax and feathers, and he flew too close to the sun, and the wax melted, and he fell into the sea and perished, sadly. So if I read you that, you'll get Auden's response to that particular painting in the Musée des Beaux-Arts. About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not want it specially to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course, anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on their doggy life, and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The ploughman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. So that's fascinating, isn't it? He's looking at the whole scene and taking a particular lesson from it about how history and life goes on despite these incredibly dramatic mythological events going on at the same time. So this next poem that I'm going to read is by a good friend of mine called Polly Stretton, and it's also based on another myth, a Greek myth of Narcissus and Echo. And Narcissus was a very handsome young man who happened to catch sight of himself in the water and fell in love with himself. And Echo, who also was in love with Narcissus, tried to make him take notice of her, but he was only interested in his own beautiful face. So she was destined to forever echo his last words, which is how the echo came into being. This is by Polly, and it's called Voices and Flowers. I am proud. I hunt. You may have heard I found my nemesis, or rather, she found me. The wretched echo kept following me. I found it beneath contempt, so I shouted, "Who's there?" And she, a mountain nymph, replied, "Who's there?" like she didn't know me. Me, 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 me. No one told me she'd been cursed by Hera, couldn't do anything other than repeat my words. She followed me, 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 and now all hear her forever as they see me, 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 me. I rest beside riverbanks, a pale flower that peers at its own beauty. So Polly's got that annoying quality of the echo, and Narcissus is completely fed up with hearing this echo all the time, and you really feel for Echo, who's in love with Narcissus. So I've written one, and it's about the very, very famous and iconic Mona Lisa that's hanging in the Louvre in Paris, and this is from her point of view. It's called Mona Lisa. I was never in his eyes, only in his head, his wannabe. He drew what he's always drawn, a beautiful woman, an enigma, and left me sitting unobserved and unloved. In truth, I am obvious, laid out and stripped bare, but he clothed me in his own desires, wrapped me in deceitful oils, painted on me, not me. I see you, watching. When you blink, I move fractionally. I like to disturb. But you only see pound signs, or yen, or euros. You don't see me, because I am not beautiful, and I am not here. I'm just going to leave that hanging there. It's interesting to see what your view is of that poem about Mona Lisa. So there's another amusing one, which is by Billy Collins from his book Picnic Lighting, and it's called Duck Rabbit, and it's about that really famous visual image of something that looks either like a duck or like a rabbit. You can only see one or the other. You can't see them both at the same time. It's a sort of psychological trick or a visual trick. Duck Rabbit. The lamb may lie down with the lion, but they will never be as close as this pair, who share the very lines of their existence, whose overlapping is their raison d'être. How strange and symbiotic the binds that make one disappear whenever the other is spied. Throw the duck a stare, and the rabbit hops down his hole. Give the rabbit the eye, and the duck waddles off the folio. Say, these could be our mascots, you and I. I could look at you forever and never see the two of us together. So that's a really lovely comic poem by Billy Collins. He's brilliant at that. It's humorous, but it also brings up something that tells you about how you look at things. So how to approach an ekphrastic poem if you're interested in writing one or how to read one. It's a bit like a crime scene in that you're looking at the art form, and the art form is full of clues. It's a scene that you've got to read, and it's up to the poet's own vision as to which clue you want to pursue, which one you want to put in the poem, which angle you're coming at from. Is it a portrait? Who is it of? So you've got to think, what are they like? What's the story behind what we see in that picture? How did they get here? Where are they going afterwards? What's outside the frame? What room are they in? What's the artist like? Is he unpleasant? Is she unpleasant? What's going on there? What do their face, clothes and possessions say about them as a person, about their status? As actors say, what's their motivation? Why are they sitting? Do they look bored? Do they look proud? You can ask lots of questions of a painting and you answer them yourselves. So you can see it as a piece of frozen time that you can play with, a moment in time that you can make your story up. And you can look at something that's surreal and work out how you want to respond to that. And how does it affect you? What kind of mood does it invoke in you? Is it sinister, uplifting, joyous? And how would you convey all that in your poem? It will affect the vocabulary that you use and the devices that you use. So you go from Robert Browning, quite sinister, to Billy Collins, humorous, and you've got Auden, who's taking a almost philosophical view of the whole thing. So that's the ekphrastic poem. And as you can see, you've got all the artwork in the world that you can look at and try and pull from that. Also, haven't mentioned, you can think about the artist as they're looking at the art form. What are they thinking? Is it just another day for them, or is this a really special painting? It's a really, really rich a rich theme to mine, so I can't go on about it forever. But I really hope you enjoy an ekphrastic poem. Thank you.